Nestled in the dense woods of northern Maine, the town of Merrow's End had the kind of charm that made it look like it had been frozen in time. Population 841. White picket fences, a single blinking traffic light, and a diner where everybody knew your name. But beneath the postcard perfect surface was a silence so heavy it was almost a second atmosphere. Outsiders noticed it instantly. Locals didn't speak of it. And no one, absolutely no one, ever mentioned the year 1997. When newcomer Jake Ellis moved to Merrow's End in the fall of 2022, he was just looking for a break from the chaos of Boston. A freelance writer with a taste for true crime and local legends, he thought he'd found the perfect place to slow down. Cheap rent, quiet mornings, clean air. He rented a small, two-bedroom house near the edge of town and planned to start a podcast about forgotten places in America. Merrow's End seemed like the ideal first episode, but almost immediately something felt off. People were friendly, yes, but guarded. If Jake asked about the town's history, the conversation shifted. If he brought up old newspapers, the store clerk would suddenly remember other customers. And if he asked directly about 1997, he was met with silence. Or worse, a cold, measured stare. Jake's curiosity turned to obsession. What could have happened that was so terrible, so unspeakable, that an entire town had silently agreed to pretend a year didn't exist? He started digging. The town library had no issues of the Merrow Gazette between June and December of 1997. Microfiche files had been mysteriously damaged. A local woman named Nancy, who ran an antique shop, mentioned offhandedly that the high school used to have a yearbook for every graduating class, except the one they never printed. Jake began recording his findings, narrating notes late at night into a digital recorder. He interviewed people, asked careful questions, pushed boundaries. Most were evasive. Some warned him off. "It's better you let it be," an old man told him one evening at the diner. "This town's been peaceful for 25 years. Don't go kicking sleeping dogs." But Jake didn't stop. Eventually, a breakthrough came from an unlikely source. Ellie Monroe, a local bartender in her early 40s. She had a sharp wit, wore her hair in a long braid, and had a quiet sadness about her. Jake had seen her give strangers the brush off more than once, but something about him must have clicked. Maybe it was the way he asked. Maybe she was tired of carrying the weight alone. Over drinks one night, Ellie leaned in and said, "You really want to know about 97? Then come back tomorrow. Midnight. I'll show you something." Jake showed up. She drove him out past the town limits, down a winding gravel road that led to the edge of Miller's Pond, a place Jake hadn't known existed. There, in the moonlight, half sunken into the soil and overgrown with weeds, was a stone structure, like a small chapel or crypt. The door was chained shut, but the rust suggested it hadn't been disturbed in decades. "This used to be the old community hall," Ellie said quietly. "There was a fire. People died. But that's not the worst part." She paused. "There was a boy named Thomas Greer, 17, quiet, loner, always drawing strange symbols. One day he came to school, different, like something inside him had changed. That night he led 5 other students into this building, locked the doors, set it on fire." Jake stared at her, stunned. "But why?" "No one knows. Or maybe some do, and they just won't say. The police said it was mental illness, but there were things that didn't add up. How the fire spread, how the bodies were found, and the symbols. They weren't just drawings. They were carved deep, into the wood, into the stone, even into the victims." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What happened after? The town covered it up, buried it, erased the year from everything. Families moved away. Others stayed, but different. And those who asked too many questions? Ellie looked at him then, eyes full of something that looked like fear. They didn't stay long. Jake went home shaken but electrified. He had everything: mystery, tragedy, conspiracy, the perfect story. He uploaded a teaser episode of his podcast that night, just 10 minutes, titled "The Year That Disappeared." It went viral overnight. Within days, journalists, YouTubers, and amateur sleuths were swarming Merrow's End. Locals were furious. Businesses closed. Jake received threats. Ellie stopped returning his calls. And then things got worse. The pond began to stink. Pets went missing. People started reporting shadows moving through the trees, strange chanting at night, power outages. The mayor called for calm. The church held daily prayer services. Then came the first death. A teenager named Lila was found drowned in Miller's Pond. Her body had symbols carved into her back, the same symbols Jake had seen sketched in Ellie's notebook. Jake was arrested briefly, questioned for hours, then released when his alibi held. But suspicion clung to him like smoke. Desperate to understand what he'd unleashed, Jake went back to the crypt. He pried open the chains and stepped inside. What he found wasn't just ash and charred wood, it was a chamber. Walls covered in symbols, a floor stained dark, and at the center, a stone pedestal, blackened and cracked with what looked like dried wax and old bones. Jake didn't remember leaving. He woke up in his bed, covered in dirt and smelling of smoke. His recorder was on the floor. The last entry? 6 minutes of static, followed by his own voice whispering, "It's awake." In the days that followed, more deaths occurred. A sense of dread blanketed the town. And still, no one would say the year. Not in newspapers, not on the radio, not in conversation. Jake tried to leave. His car wouldn't start. When he tried to walk, roads circled back. GPS failed. The town, it seemed, wouldn't let him go. And then, silence. His podcast went dark. His social media account stopped updating. The last photo on his Instagram was a blurry shot of the crypt door, captioned only, "I was wrong." To this day, no one knows what really happened in Merrow's End. Tourists occasionally stop through, asking about the missing podcaster or the mysterious year that disappeared. Locals just smile politely, offer directions to the diner, and remind them of one simple rule: never talk about 1997.